Right, I'm going to start the stream. So for this, it's and good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever it is, whenever it is that you're watching this. Hopefully you're watching it live right now. So welcome along. Today I am very, very excited and pleased to bring Janet Robb to the show. She is a massive community figure. We'll go into more details and chat with her in a moment. I'll get her to introduce herself, but hopefully you will enjoy the next 45, 50, hour and a half chat. We'll see. All right, Janet, you're live. Hello, please introduce yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I just filled the face and about, thank you for the lovely introduction. So I'm Janet. I live in Belfast. I'm Janet Robb. I've been in the community a very long time. I just don't think I'm a very loud figure. So I just never believe anybody would have a Scooby-Doo who I was. So that's why I pulled the face.
To me, it's an odd thought that people don't know who you are. But I think, as well as a big part of that is my introduction to community was very much, it was the Dublin event, so the D365 Saturday. It wasn't the first one, which I learned when you posted on LinkedIn a little while back. I thought it was the first one. Evidently, I was wrong. It was the second one. So that's where I got introduced. And somehow at that conference, I can't remember the exact details, but I got talking to Mark. And that's how I ended up then presenting at Scottish Summit the next year. But obviously you were a massive part of that Dublin event. And I knew of you from that whole thing. I never actually spoke to you, I don't think, on that particular one.
I would have spoken to me that day. I was a beggar with a sore head. Actually, I think that was the third one.
Was it the third? Really?
I think that was the third one I did.
Oh my goodness.
I know. It's like people don't know. People don't know the story. People don't know. Do you want me to tell you what happened?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so nobody knows this because I think everybody started to really get together around what I would have thought being my third conference, maybe, that I ran in Dublin. But we were trying for years. So the story how I got into it was I was working in the National College of Ireland. I had been working in Microsoft for a number of years. I'd always been in Dynamics and I got made redundant and I was in the National College of Ireland and I really loved that customer and I've always been very customer focused. Everybody says that, but I really get such a buzz on the actual customer side. And Microsoft then changed the licensing model so that people that had used entities before that were free to use, were the core ones, was now put into core. So I was looking at the price of relicensing for this customer, and it went from this to this because we had built it using as many free
Yep.
entities as we could, like everybody else did. And I
XRM.
had there, yes, exactly. So I had a complete rant about how it was really affecting people. And anyway, I don't know if lots of people use LinkedIn in those days. And like we're going back about maybe 10 years. Well, flip me, it went absolutely crazy. And people were writing to me going, you're biting the hand that feeds you, and take
Oh
this
wow,
post
really?
online, and it got all out. So this chap called Razvan Chowdhury, who to me is the founder for in my head of community, sent me a message going, "You seem very passionate about adoption and change," which um, I've run a little group in Manchester, but we're going to do one in London. Do you want to come over? I must have been in Egypt. I hadn't two beans to rub together, and I had been incredibly ill. I'd contracted Lyme's disease. I'd been paralysed, and I broke my neck. And I
Jeez.
just see, yeah, nobody knows all of the story. And I got on a plane and I flew to London. And I knew Paddington through work and things, and I knew a few people. And there was about 100 people there. And there was me, and I think I remember one or two other girls, but they didn't look like me. I was in a flowery skirt. And, I looked like I didn't belong. And there was tea and coffee on a saucer. And I remember thinking, I don't know what to do with myself with my hand. And then the oddest thing happened. I started to back myself into a corner because I couldn't see myself in that room. The other girls that were there were really, really, really techy. And I just thought, yeah, I could do it. I could configure to my heart's content, but I couldn't code. And I couldn't join in the conversation. And I thought, I don't belong here. And then I started the boys that were there, Raz and Wise and loads of other, the core boys. I thought, they're not very good at organising stuff. I would have that there, and I would do that there, and I love them. Hopefully, if they watch that, they know I love them. And I said to Raz at the end, I think I could do this in Dublin. And that's how it started. I flew home, and Raz and the boys, and I was the first to put sponsors in, and I took €1,000 off 4 sponsors because I'd worked out to every penny what I needed. But there was no Eventbrite, there was nothing. There was a spreadsheet, and I did it all on a spreadsheet. And the first one was in. I sent a picture not so long ago, and I was the only. And I'll tell you one last bit. Sorry, I got excited.
No, no, please keep going.
I was the only girl speaker, and I was the organizer. And I put a picture up on Facebook. I was in such an high, and everybody told me it wouldn't happen. Nobody would be interested. And the 100 tickets went literally within 2 days.
Nice.
And I put a picture up on Facebook. My lovely friend Sarah Hallowell said, "Not many bras in that room, is there?" And I went, "What?" I didn't expect. And Sarah doesn't know that, but she changed my life with that one comment. And I started to count the girls that I could see. And then that started to be my mission to. I started the Door is Open campaign, and all it was taking pictures of girls that were there in flowery dresses, techies, didn't care how you came, but to say, listen, folks, you're here, you're represented, and you're very welcome. And I just made a point of taking pictures of just the women and saying, hey, we're here. So, and that's how it started. And then I started to fly over to London to help run the London ones. Then we did Manchester. And then I did Dublin for a couple of years. And Mark actually was one of my customers at the National College that I was at. He was with EBEX at the time.
Yep.
And he went, we can do this in Scotland. Ta-da!
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and so the dominoes then fell.
The dominoes fell. And, I remember Chris Huntingford his first talking slot was in Paddington. Anna Denemy stamped her foot in front of me because she'd written to me about mentorship, and I was so busy on the day. And eventually she lost her rag and she stamped her foot and she went, "Janet." And I went, "He's scary." Turns out to be one of my good best friends now. And loads of people, and like Mark and Ian, when they did the Scottish Summit, we did, and we took so much kicking for this 50-50 male female speakers. Like we
Yeah.
physically went out and found them.
Mhm.
And we took a lot of kicking for that.
Really?
Well, oh yeah. Yeah, we did. And I've taken some kicks over the years because of, like, I used to hold 10% of the tickets aside for women because the tickets would go like this.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get, for me, women into the industry. And I took some kicks over the years. And at the time when I was younger, more vulnerable, more sensitive, I really took those kicks.
Mm.
But now you get a middle digit from me. I'm not doing it on the camera, but pretty much do one.
Jeez. I
So
Yeah.
yeah.
But I was just going to say I can't imagine that, but I'm not in that minority. I'm not in that group in any way. I'm very much a middle-aged white man. I'm pretty much
And middle-aged white men are absolutely delicious at the time, you know. But I can understand that females that were in the industry were like, I got here under my own power.
yeah.
And I got mine because Raz invited me to come because I'd had a rant on LinkedIn. He physically reached out to me.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes people need some help. And we now talk about equality and equity really freely.
Mm.
But back then it didn't feel like there was equity. And it didn't feel like we had equality in some diverse groups.
Yeah.
And you have to be the person that gives you the foot up, and or the girl or the boy to put the hand down to pull you up. And we have to make sure that like what Mark and Ian did with the Scottish Summit, and there was lots and lots of helpers and workers and things there, but they gave people a platform that they actively went and found
Yeah.
people. And those women are pretty much all MVPs now. Or, without a platform and actively looking, a lot of people wouldn't be here today. And that's what I used to have a strap line: you leave your ego at the door. And when I said you probably didn't talk to me at that thing in Dublin, because I'm ripping people's heads off. Because if I saw cliques forming, I'd say three of you in the same t-shirts, you better have an excuse. Because you don't just work at my events from your talk. I expect you to work the minute you walk in through that door. I need you to encourage. I need you to befriend. I need you to make people feel welcome. Your job is not there just to talk. It is to create an atmosphere and a community. And I I was very passionate about that, about the ego being left at the door. And I'll be honest with you, there's a bit of ego now that there wouldn't have been in my day. Sound old. There wouldn't have been in my day. I don't like ego.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun. So the ego is. I mean, everyone has an ego. It is there. It's one of those things. It's that fine line between ego and arrogance. For me, it's the arrogance that is the one that I don't like. That's the one where you say, "It doesn't matter. You puny people are there to listen to me. It doesn't matter what you say or do. I'm here to impart my wisdom." That's the kind of thing that's really bad, and an ego can absolutely lead to that. And I mean, my view of the community and the people that I've interacted with within the community are the people that are there to help, not there to do that. So I talk about Jonas. Jonas is one of my favorite people. He was at that Scottish Summit, and I was a fish out of water in many ways. Like I talked to Bibi about this before on the show a few weeks ago. My approach to getting into community was to just put my hand up and say, I want to speak. Just throw me in there. I'd rather do that than just attend, because for me, then I'm part of it. I'm a part of that movement, and I like being in that in crowd in some ways. It just feels, if it felt good to do that, but I had the ability to do that. Like, I didn't have anything holding me back to stop me from doing that, even though I am a very socially awkward person. So for me, going into a room of lots of people is terrifying. But for me, going into the speaker's green room, that's less terrifying because I'm there with the other speakers. It's a smaller group. It's easier. But at one point, I did go up to Jonas because I met him and I saw him and I was like, I recognize him. I've been following him for ages. I use his tools. He's a brilliant man. Yeah. And then we ended up chatting for ages at the pub afterwards, and just got to know him. And he's just a really nice guy. And that's the people that I think a lot of people will naturally gravitate towards in the community. And that's what you want in the community. You don't want those egos that are up there just saying that do this, do that, whatever. It's the people that are there to actually help you and want to help you, no matter how long they've been an MVP or up on a stage.
I think for me, when it was smaller, so the events where we organized them really quickly, we were turning events around really, really, really quickly with a core group of people, and the we had about 100 people, so we could see different people. We maybe had 3 rooms going or 4 rooms going, and this is where I have a slight problem when it was smaller and you had smaller rooms. One, lots of people attended that session.
Yep.
So you didn't have sessions with maybe 3 or 4 people in it.
Yeah.
And people really got value, and then people could recognize and maybe sit beside the same person a couple of times. And then, then we got so big
Yeah.
that it was harder to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's been many things done to try and help, new speaker programs, all of those type of things, like Zoe Wilson, absolutely fantastic at bringing people on. But it was actually easier and more intimate when it obviously it's smaller, and that's what happens when we get bigger. But that's why the likes of the user groups, the smaller user groups, the 1-day events are really, really good too.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are thinking, oh, I'll go to the South Coast Summit, which is amazing, or the Scottish Summit, which is amazing, it's also really good and intimate to go to all our smaller user groups.
Yeah.
and get to know each other. I mean, it's given me, this wasn't the plan. None of this was planned.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you how it really started is I got made redundant. I was really, really ill. I just thought life was giving me a good old kicking. And I was panicking. I was panicking about whether I would ever work again. You have these horrible thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to look at a conference to learn, because I felt, I wasn't a good programmer. I still was on the mindset that that's what I have. You're in IT, you have to be a programmer.
Yeah.
By Robb design. But I looked at the price, and it was like £1,000. And I go back 10 years, and I was like, have you had a giraffe? I couldn't pay £1,000. And I thought, well, I'm really smart at this, and you're really smart at this. So why don't we, what's stopping me doing this myself in Dublin?
Yeah.
I've got all the contacts. I've got Microsoft paid for my hotel, for the rooms for the first one, and somebody paid for the lunches, and I didn't have a bean. And some conferences I ended up paying, maybe I was short £700 or something, and I would pay it myself.
Jeez.
And I remember one partner was so raging with me, and I mean raging, He sent me a really sharp email. At the time, I thought I had cancer, and I was sitting waiting for a scan in a cancer hospital. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to give it to you, bloody barrels. And the point was, I didn't need any more money. I didn't need another sponsor, because I didn't want to be arsed with the hassle. 2, it devalued what other sponsors had done.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't need any more money. I didn't want to buy any more swag. I couldn't be arsed. It was about the learning. And I've had a few kickings over the years.
So, I mean, you've mentioned a number of different conferences. So how many conferences do you either?
I have no idea. I actually don't know. I have no Scooby. So I did my three myself,
Mhm.
and then I don't know how many in London and Manchester. Did I do Birmingham? I can't. And then I mentored and did. I didn't mentor. We did the Scottish Summit with the
Yep.
boys. So I did all of them, and then I stopped the last one. The last Scottish Summit, I didn't do anything. It was my that was the first, and that was the one we just did,
Hmm.
or I just attended. Was the first conference I've ever gone to, and I've done nothing.
Wow. How did
And I mean nothing.
how did it feel?
Brilliant.
So
It felt brilliant. It felt brilliant. It's so difficult to organize. And, I joked about I hated everybody. I hated every single one of you at my conferences because I had been asked the same question 5,625 million times. Nobody had listened to me. You were all standing together talking when I didn't want you together talking. And and everybody used to talk about these great nights out in Dublin. And I never went. I drove home to Belfast because I all hated you. Yeah, calmed down a few days later. But I it was lovely. I got to hang out with some girls that like Lucy and Alison and Tamara.
mhm.
We had a civilized dinner. I had a steak dinner with cocktails.
That's exalted company as well. Lucy, I'm hoping
Oh,
I'll be talking to her shortly as well. Um,
that's that's the best thing that happened. And I didn't expect any of this to happen. I was some frightened wee girl. I wasn't wee, but I felt like a wee girl. I felt like a little girl who was frightened when this all started. And I now have, like, I think of Lucy as a sister. I think of Alison as my mischief maker. I I have so many Chris Huntingford. There's many a time I could have strangled that man to death, but if anybody touched him, I'd kill them.
yeah.
You know, I have made so many friends, and I'll tell you one thing: my mum died very, very suddenly during COVID, and I'm not married, no kids, and I'd been a carer for my mum for a long time, and it was awful. It was the most traumatic thing that ever happened, and I couldn't have a funeral, and it was just awful.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is, well, it's not funny. The wonderful thing is, and the thing that I am very grateful for, I would say for a month to a month and a half, there wasn't a day that there was not a bunch of flowers sent or a present sent or I'm naming a star after my mum. There was, and a lot of it came from the people in the community.
Mhm.
There was people I didn't even think knew me sent me stuff, and it came in like there was days there was 4 or 5 bouquets of flowers on the doorstep.
Wow.
Um, and I had a tiny little house then, and it didn't stop,
Yeah.
and it was from people who I don't know why they did it. I didn't think they even knew who I was, and it carried me when there was nobody able to carry me because we weren't allowed to.
Mhm.
And I am so grateful for my friendships over anything else. And that came as a byproduct. None of this was meant to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry for your loss. That's
And
that's hard. Uh, actually, interestingly, during COVID, I haven't lost anyone, but someone that I knew in the community, strangely enough, reached out to me to ask if I would record their uh, record a funeral for them because they were there, but because it was COVID, it was just some weird setup. So basically, there was a web version, and I could record it for them. So I recorded that and shared it with them, and that was just because I knew them through community. Through it was the fact that I helped someone to do that. even though it's not like we're the best of friends, we're not the closest, it was just, it's that connection. It's that human connection. And that's what this, to me, that's what the community is. It's not necessarily just about the superstars and the fanboying and the following, the people that are talking the great stuff. It is that there are people out there that genuinely want to help. And it's not
Uh-huh.
just the tech stuff. It is they want to help. If they see that you're in trouble, they will want to help you in some way. And that's been the thing that's been amazing for me to see. Like during COVID, especially, we we had our virtual pub, as you know, certainly bits and pieces about,
Yeah.
I'm sure. And during that time, it was just great. It was brilliant. We just had a virtual call. We jumped on, and we just talked shit basically for an entire evening, and just some stuff that went through that, and what we went through as a group at that time. It kind of forged a lot of that relationship that I had with it. So again, still talking conferences, but before actually I go to that, I've got the very first chat message come through live. It was actually a while ago. I didn't want to interrupt, but Lewis is out there watching.
Oh,
So that's a nice little segue, because I wanted to go a little bit more into the user groups. One of the things you mentioned there was the user groups and the sort of more regular events. It was an interesting one, because when I started looking for something to go to at the time that I was getting into CRM, we didn't really have anything in Scotland at that time. The closest was London. There was a thing that was there was the Dynamics UG crowd,
hmm.
and they were doing stuff, but a lot of that was customers only or paid, or it was odd. And so I wanted to get more involved in the Scottish stuff, and at one point we did actually try to organize one with them. We actually did do an event in Scotland, but the user group side of things, I feel like they just kind of fell off the cliff for a while. And I think it's because Dynamics UG disappeared. I don't know the full ins and outs of what happened, but they disappeared, and there was just a bit of a void, which certainly now is starting to be filled with more and more. One of which is Lewis's baby.
Limited.
Yes.
No, I agree. So going back many moons ago, many moons ago, I remember. So I've been in Dynamics land since version 3
Oh wow.
of, of CRM. Yeah, no, I'm not old. I'm not. I'm 49. I told somebody the other day I'm a 49-year-old pre-med. I just don't piss me off. I'm not at this. I'm at the stage of life where I
Noted.
just don't give a shit anymore. And I remember this going back, like I was in my early 30s and I was at conferences and they were swanky. They were so swanky. And there was free everything and it was ridiculous. And then we came around, Rask and the Wes and the gang all came along and we started to give everything away for free. And I remember Raz said to me, there's a dartboard in our back, we're killing people's businesses and we didn't even know. And then we had the user groups as well, but then the conferences got so big.
Hmm.
This is what I think. The conferences got so big, people did like what Mark and Ian and Aaron and the boys from the South Coast have done is off the Richter scale.
Hmm.
And therefore that takes a lot of energy and time.
Hmm.
So I think people just concentrated on them for a while. And I could be completely wrong. But then I think like I mentioned earlier, the intimacy of a smaller group, and
Yeah.
they're starting to come back. And what Steph and Lewis did with the Bletchley Park group with AI was absolutely fantastic. And again, it starts with passion and desire to share your knowledge, and
Yeah.
then I we're starting to look at how do we take user groups for AI across the whole of the UK? How do we make it easy for people in Scotland, in Wales, in Belfast, in places that don't already have a centre? How do we make it for people who want to maybe really, really interested but don't want the stress or don't know how to start?
Hmm.
And that's what we're now trying to work at with the Bletchley Park committee kind of thing. But you have no idea. So this is the exciting thing. I had no idea when we started all of this what would happen and what friends I would make and what support I got. And then, but you don't know either. and people don't know what's going to happen tomorrow and who's that person that's going to sit beside them. I always used to say your egos have to be left at the door, and the person beside you could be the answer to all your problems. Just go and say hello. They might look shy. They might look, you don't know what your best friend's going to look like. You don't know what your partner. Like, listen, I've been to weddings and there's babies. You don't know who that person is standing beside you. And all we're doing is creating opportunities. I'm watching a movie next door, it's making me laugh. It's about disco and what it was like, and I was giggling because we went to discos and we did, can I call them discos? Yeah, I'm old enough to say we went to the disco. But we don't, it's so difficult to meet people now.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. Like, honestly, the amount of people I met on a disco, I could have snogged four people and then gone home. And now, now life isn't like that anymore. So, not that I say go to a user group and snog them, but
That's a different event.
here, you don't know.
Speed dating. I've actually, funnily enough, I've seen some speed networking events done in that kind of thing. So, but yeah, speed dating is a different level. But yeah, no, there's definitely a few couples have come out of the various events.
A few babies. My goodness, Lucy and Lee
Yeah.
and little Ralph.
Oh, jeez.
And then we've got Anna and Andrew
Yeah.
and what's their daughter called? Help me.
Oh, I'm drawing a blank, but yes.
Oh, hold me a second.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. But yeah, no, the user groups certainly are starting to come back. The other thing I've noticed as well in the conference world is that we're starting to get more big paid conferences. So Dynamics Minds is the one that's come to mind. There's a lot of buzz around that, and when I looked at that, that's one of those big expensive ones. So
Sorry, as I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
no, that's it. Go.
I just thought it's sort of gone full circle.
Yeah.
It's sort of gone full circle, but they're doing it better now. They're doing it better. So my first paid one was the European Power Platform Conference, and it was in Dublin.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, there isn't that tackiness that there might have been 15, 17, 18 years ago. This feels like it is there for learning.
Yeah.
The tacky conferences that I referred to felt very much like big businesses sent people and they didn't learn diddly squat, they just drank.
Yeah.
Whereas this feels like we've got the best people speaking, we've done proper assessment, we have really good caliber, we're going to treat those speakers really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to promote them, so it's a win-win for both, but it is truly learning.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is different. I do think the price of the tickets are like for me, they are personally eye-watering, but I'm not a big business, or I'm just Janet. But the value that people get, the networking, the learning, the inspiration is different from back in those days, from what I remember. But then again, I once went up a down escalator. And I just thought I had set back women in IT another 15 years. I did it. Where was that conference? Barcelona. It was in Barcelona.
You have to tell. How did that happen? What was going?
I'm stupid. No, that's not true. I had Lyme's disease. I was pretty ill. I was on 20 tablets a day and I was covered in sweat. I've always maintained, this is maybe what you shouldn't say, any woman can do anything with a bottle of talc and a spare pair of knickers in their bag, because that was my life. I sweated solidly for 2 years. And I just was disorientated and I just started to go up the down escalator. And then I sort of tripped, and then all these men came to help me, and I really just set back women's rights in IT.
I don't believe that for 1 second. You can just, as you said already, you just look at the community out there and you look at the faces. I mean, even just look at my stream. The number of people that I've had on, I've actually only spoken to one guy so far. Now, a part of that is the people that I've brought on are people I've wanted to talk to, and it's people that I've met in the community that I've enjoyed talking to. I mean, I started with Keegan. Keegan, I was working with her at my job, and I met her first at conferences, and she's brilliant. So there's
Just I just just what's the word I'm trying to find that doesn't get me arrested? I just can't stop looking at Keegan and just in that red dress when she does when she did the thing. And it's inappropriate, but flip me, she has some figure.
Snog, marry, avoid. That's what we're gonna have to do. That's for a different stream.
No,
No, it's a good bunch out there. So you've enjoyed this last conference as an attendee. What are your plans for running any more conferences? I'm sure I saw something. Did you not mention? Is it about time for Dublin again?
that's Andrew Bibby. Andrew Bibby has obsessed because apparently everybody had a fantastic time in Dublin when I just stormed home to
Dublin is
Images.
amazing.
Uh,
So yes, we all did have. I think you definitely should do another one, and I think
I
that.
should definitely do another. Actually, it is I've started talks on it
Ooh,
on quite a few occasions.
uh-huh.
With I have started talks on it. I'm actually probably sort of getting back into the talking scene.
Hmm.
I just got overwhelmed. I just got overwhelmed with after COVID and stuff. I just find everything hard work
Yeah.
um and also how do I say when you work for Microsoft, it's a bit hard to say. When you work for Microsoft, you don't learn as much.
Oh wow.
Um, well, my job was purely adoption within Dynamics.
Hmm.
Whereas my job now with ANS, I get to see more projects going through.
Yeah.
I get to understand. I have to keep up with what's happening. I get to do different things. It's not just the one technology anymore. And I'm like, oh, this would be a good idea. This was a good learning here. Maybe I'll move that onto a talk, and then I write a talk on it. And we don't write talks every day of the week. We write one, do it really, really well, and then maybe a couple of months later we'll write another one because they take time.
Yeah.
They take time to actually do properly.
Yeah.
I'm back into doing that, and I will probably do a Dublin one. It won't be this year now; it's too late. Because the South, the big South Coast Summit. But I think I was in talks about bringing one back to Dublin. I would love to bring it to Belfast, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Um, but I've got to, you never know.
I, Belfast would be good. I mean, I like Belfast. We went on our honeymoon to Belfast. So it's well, the thing is, we split our honeymoon. We went to a few different places, but we wanted to keep it relatively local, and we wanted to go somewhere we hadn't been before, and we'd never been to. Neither of us had been to the island of Ireland, so Belfast was a nice, easy one for that. And we also went further up north in Scotland. We went up to Skye, so we split it between the two, and it was amazing. I mean, we had a great time in Belfast. So no, definitely that would be awesome, and you can absolutely count on me for volunteering. I'm actually, it's funny, I do like talking. I do like doing the presentations. I haven't done one for a long time. Part of that's just family life, because I had a similar thing to you after COVID, and there's a lot just sort of happened, and I just withdrew a bit because there was too much social media. There was too much I was involved in, and I lost interest. I just flipped entirely the other way to just be, I've got my son, I'm going to deal with him. And I'm now sort of dipping my toe back in, hence this. But I actually find I like the organization. Like I'm not the organizer. I'm definitely not that person, but I like to be there to help and support and move things and that kind of stuff. I can be that person behind the scenes that does stuff. I'm not that front of center. I'm not that. I'm not the front of house as such. But I really love to be the worker in the background doing stuff. That's the thing that I think I found my niche in.
Definitely think now, that's my Northern Belfast now. Definitely think now we have better tools
Hmm.
to help people in the background, whereas I had a spreadsheet. And if anybody ever sees me with an Excel sheet, I am terrible. I am just terrible at Excel. PowerPoint, brilliant. Excel, rubbish. So now, do it in the background. There's really great roles like that people can do to facilitate, to to take a lot of that admin away.
Hmm.
I actually, I am fantastic at organizing. I am absolutely spot on. I can walk into your room and go, people say, oh, we're just waiting. I went, do you not see these 15 other things in this room that he's done? I and people think, oh God, she's on one, get out of her way. But I love the organizing, and but what I love the most is seeing people really get benefit out of it.
Yeah.
And I mean benefit, um, and learning and it changing their life in even the smallest way. And I actually gave up for a couple of years, or on and out, did all the helping in the background, but I have facial palsy. I'm quite open about it now. It took me a long time to be that open, and I'm spending a lot of time actually campaigning for services for people, and I run a support group for about 300 people in Northern Ireland.
Jeez.
I managed to speak at the Northern Ireland Parliament a couple of weeks ago, which did kill me. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. You know, I had to get politicians and ministers and doctors and physios and surgeons all in one room. So I like organizing, but I like organizing with a goal. I mean, I always at the start of most meetings, I'll write it down. What would success look like for me? Because everybody has a different definition of
Hmm.
success. And for me, success was people being able to make friends, people not feeling lonely, and people not feeling bored.
Well, success on all counts on my part, I can certainly attest to. I'm
Mhm.
interested then in that that sort of approach. Would you say that your career in the world of adoption did that get driven by that viewpoint, or did the viewpoint come from the adoption work?
I think it got driven because of that viewpoint.
Mm.
I get really frustrated when, for example, people present and their goal is to get to the end of the presentation. I I did a presentation recently in an AI talk in Manchester, and people said that went really well. I said, thank you, that was really great. But of course, it went really well. I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd worked every night to 10 o'clock. I knew every slide, what I wanted to get across, what was my story that linked every slide, what was my goal. Because if I don't put that much effort in, it's my goal is just get to the end. A goal when you present is to make sure that somebody in that audience has can walk out remembering who you are, what you told them, and how they're going to put it into practice.
Yeah.
And so I always get frustrated when people present and I'm like, you know, you're just showing me how intelligent you are right now because I haven't a Scooby Doo what you're doing. So I like the fact that to get to deliver a message properly, somebody has to adopt it into their framework. And I adore adoption. I love the fact that people will get a benefit, whether it be financial or an easier process, or and I always make a joke, I do this all the time in one of my presentations. I have a lady in a cartoon with a martini glass, and it's based on a real story. And I always say her name's Helen, and it's not Helen. And she just wanted to trust the system. And she said to me, Janet, all I want is a gin and tonic on a Friday night. That's all I want. And I went, well, why can't you have a gin and tonic, love? And she said, because I know I'm going to get called in at 5 o'clock to restart the system.
Jeez.
And she just wanted to trust the system.
Mm.
She just wanted to have faith in the system. And for her, the success was being able to have a gin and tonic on a Friday night. Everybody identifies a success a different way.
Yeah, no, that's a nice succinct way to look at it. It's and it's of drawing out the pain as well, because that's I think so often. I mean, I'm very much on the techie side in that I enjoy getting my hands on the keyboard and developing and making stuff happen. But the thing that drives me is solving problems. So I kind of have this view that everyone has their core thing, whether they know what it is or not. There's a core thing, and that thing is what drives you to where you are. So the work that I've done and where I've got to is not necessarily about preparation and study. For me, it's solving problems. That's what I love to do. So I loved being in support. Actually, supporting was one of my favorite things to do. But then there wasn't enough money in that, so I ended up going into development and doing other stuff. But I still enjoy the support. So I will often, with customers, that's the part I enjoy the most in delivering a project, is solving their problems. Whether it's in a requirements form, like this is the thing we need to try and do, and we're trying to do that because there's this business problem that we're trying to solve. Whether it's being able to enjoy my martini at the end of the week, that is a business problem to solve. That's how do we make the system reliable enough that someone can do that? So there's that side on the requirement side, but then there's the actual delivery side where I like to have regular calls with the customers. That's why Agile is one of the things I quite enjoy, that philosophy of show them and deliver software. Get in front of them, get them doing it, and get them to actually show you them doing it so that they can ask you questions. That's the thing I like to do as much as anything else. And I think that's what's driven my presentation, and that's what drives this as well. I love it. That, and also I always enjoyed the Parkinson chat show back in the day.
The word is love. Once you love something, it's not a job.
Yeah.
And I love organizing, and I love presenting. I know that's, yeah, I do. I love doing it, but I love the outcome it gives me.
And on that wonderful note, that is a great point to finish up the chat. But we do have one last little section, which is the quickfire questions.
Right.
So just first thoughts that come to mind on the question. Don't dwell too much on anything. Always best to do it that way. So first of all, favorite Power Platform service? Dynamics.
Yeah, CRM.
Ah.
Yeah, always.
Cool.
Just always. I love it. It's the engine of the car.
Yeah, it's true. It is. It absolutely is. It's where everything came from. XRM into CRM into Power Platform. Mm-hmm. Favorite conference? This is going to be hard for you, considering how many you've been to and how many you've organized.
My favorite conference. Oh my goodness. My favorite conference was the European Power Platform Conference. Why? Because I was a speaker and I never go out because I hate you all, and I went out that night and I'd sweat in places I didn't know you could get sweat. I danced all night.
That's amazing. Last music you can remember listening to?
Last music I listened to. I literally was in the car earlier on, and there was a new Jonas Brothers, and everybody was mortified that the Jonas Brothers' latest song is amazing. Can't remember what it was called, but it was flipping great. And it was the Jonas Brothers.
I always find that funny, like people that sort of initially with like people like Taylor Swift and these sort of ones that are pop icons, but people are like, oh no, I don't listen to any of that. Listen to some of it. Some of it's really good.
This was amazing. People are like, oh, I'm embarrassed, but oh my God, that was great.
Excellent. Podcasts or TV?
Oh, TV. I'm addicted. But I love podcasts too. But yeah, I'm addicted.
I do.
I'm usually on a documentary.
Oh, really?
Weirdly. Yeah. Give me a boring documentary about something that was 5,000 years ago. Love it.
I do enjoy those, like especially any of the nature stuff that gets done. Oh God, I love that stuff. If you had 2 hours with no other responsibility, what would you do?
I sound like an absolute weirdo. I have no talent in art or craft, but I would sit and do craft and art happily. And I would look like a stick man. And Lewis is probably laughing if he's still on because I have no skill.
Again, I feel your pain there. I do enjoy doing it with my son, and he's the one that's drawn me into doing more because I personally feel like everything I do is just not good enough. And I have to hold myself back because I know that for him, he's only 6. I can't give him that fear. So it's actually been quite a bonding experience because we've spent lots of time making these sort of like seascapes. So what we do is basically I get him to come up with a theme, an idea, and then we'll cut card out and we'll glue it together and we'll just do it one piece at a time. And the
Oh,
stuff we come up with is actually amazing, but it all starts by cutting a few bits of card and sticking on other bits of card.
that's 2 hours of heaven for me. You're right there.
Lovely. Books or audiobooks?
Oh, that's not fair. Audiobook. I'm dyslexic, so I read very slowly, but yeah, an audiobook. I love an audiobook.
Yeah, I very much enjoy an audiobook. Similarly, no, I don't think I've got dyslexia, but I definitely read very slowly. Like it's definitely a problem I've got. But I think for me, it's because when I read like I'm talking fully. I do not do speed reading. So when I'm reading the actual thing in my head. So it slows the whole process down. Last one, glass half full or half empty?
I very much, I would, can oh, at the minute, I'm a glass half full girl, but for a very long time of my life, I was a half empty girl and only started in my late 40s to see things differently. And nothing's changed, just seeing things differently.
Something has changed. Experience. It's yep.
Experience and wisdom and some very good friends and also the gift that keeps on giving is your 40s, where you just go middle digit away on.
Well, I just entered mine last year, so I've got that ahead of me.
It's a gift. It's a gift. It's the gift of do one. Just do one.
Well, you say that there are studies that show that people in older life or elder age people are actually happier than at any other stage in life. And they do theorize it's basically you've been battle hardened. You've been through life. You've been through difficulty. You've been through goods, ups and downs. And as a result of that, you kind of just get to a point where, it's fine.
It'll be okay. We'll survive. It's we've been through the fire. We've been hardened.
Yeah. Well, this has been anything but hard work in any way, shape, or form. This has been wonderful, Janet. It's been
Thank you,
so good.
sweetheart. Thank you, and thank you for letting me come and chitter and telling the backstory, and thank you for being part of my journey too.
Anytime.
Appreciate it.
Hopefully, we'll do more in the future. And I'll definitely see you at a conference and we can dance. That'll be fun.
We can dance. Definitely.
All right. For all you, everyone else out there that's listening, then we've actually got a couple on there, which is lovely. Very good to have people aboard. We'll be back next week where I will have another guest to chat through. But once again, Janet, thanks. And good night, everyone.